What's good, everybody? It's CrowPower30 here, and welcome back to ranking every single Godzilla film. In the last part, we did all of the Heisei era, a lot of iconic films. Some of them were amazing, and others were a little bit underwhelming, not gonna lie. But all in all, not a bad era for Godzilla. And here we are with the rebirth of Millennium. Yes, we're technically gonna start with Godzilla 98 and then go all the way down to Final Wars. But although we don't have a lot of movies in this era, this is the era I'm going to talk about the most because some of these movies are iconic and great, and others, my opinions on, might be a bit controversial. So if you're ready for that, hit the like and subscribe button and comment down below what's your favorite Millennium film. Now let's get started with the video.
Didn't we agree that we weren't going to have any sweets until after the election?
Back off, Gene.
Alright, we are starting out the Millennium era with a bang. Godzilla 1998 is the definition of wasted potential, to be quite honest with everyone. The first 40 minutes before they fully revealed Godzilla, this movie was honestly bordering on A tier. Yeah, I'm shocked too. The beginning with Godzilla not being shown was surprisingly well done, especially showing the footprints left by Godzilla and a destroyed fishing ship. The whole mystery and tension surrounding what caused the destruction was really top notch. The movie baits you in by thinking it was something it's not, which makes it sadder for me watching it back now, because they had all the ingredients ready to go. They just couldn't get over the finish line, sadly. Jean Reno, if I did that right, is the highlight of this movie, as the French Secret Servicemen try to stop Godzilla before the US figures out that it was the French's nuclear testing that caused all this mayhem in the first place. Everyone else is just bad. Simba is just bland. Then again, that's just Matthew Broderick for you, so what can you do? Looking back, Godzilla's design is fine, as it's supposed to mirror a marine iguana, so for that, the design isn't that bad actually. Still, I can say the same for the raptors. They're just the raptors from Jurassic Park. It was only used to hint at a sequel that never happened actually, until the TV show of course. The destruction in this movie is great, and that should be a given as these were the same people who made Independence Day. But the problem lies in Godzilla, as he doesn't destroy anything. It's the military that does most of the dirty work. Godzilla is just there to lay eggs and reproduce, only attacking when provoked. There's a lot of other problems as well, but I know this movie is pretty polarizing as most people in the fan base disregard this movie, and for a while I was in the same position. I have memories of watching this movie as a kid on VHS since my grandparents used to have this movie, so this was my first real interaction with the King of the Monsters. And although I will admit that there are way superior Godzilla films out there, for the most part, this movie is just an average summer flick that really, I get why you hate it. If you really hate it, I understand. Or if you really love it, I understand too. But for the most part, it's just the average C tier summer flick. Yeah, this movie went from being an F tier movie for me to about a C tier. It's not awful, and it's not good either. There are plenty of worse summer flicks movies out there, and the fact of the matter is that without this movie, I probably wouldn't be a Godzilla fan today, making a 4-part video ranking 38 movies and 2 TV shows. So no matter what, 1998 will always have a special place in my heart. But again, so much wasted potential. If you want a good version of Zilla, I would highly recommend watching the TV show. It is actually not that bad. It's actually really fun. Born from the spite and negative reception that Godzilla 1998 had incurred, Toho decided it was time to revive Godzilla, although only being gone for 4 years after his death in Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. If 1998 is a definition of wasted potential, Godzilla 2000 is the definition of spite, as this movie was made out of spite and resentment towards the American version. This movie feels like an apology to all the American kaiju fans who wanted to see a Godzilla movie, and for the most part, the movie satisfies in that regard. I finally got to watch the Japanese version of Godzilla 2000 in theaters a couple of months ago, where they decided to re-release it for select theaters, and I remember driving to my local theater, getting so excited to watch the version of a movie I'd initially loved as a kid. The US version of Godzilla 2000 I remember watching a lot growing up, and that's probably because I used to main Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla Save the Earth. But regardless, I was super excited to finally watch this film again. The smile on my face slowly began to fade away, as watching this movie in its entirety Godzilla 2000, the Japanese version at least, is kind of dull.
Did he just say, aye, he did?
Don't get me wrong, I love the design, but the story, the music, hell, even some of the effects did not age well in the slightest. Orga's a cool design, but the movie itself getting to that point was dragging along. I was flabbergasted at what I was witnessing. It's crazy to think how the American release for this movie spent $1 million trying to edit the movie to add more music, even save the pacing, which actually the American movie has better pacing than the Japanese version. The English theme for Orga was a remix of the Godzilla theme, and it fits Orga's character so well that I would highly recommend looking up on YouTube. I was shocked that Orga's theme wasn't even in the original 1999 version. I thought it was in the original version. It just fits so well. Now, there's a reason why I didn't rank yet Godzilla 1998. Now, this is going to shock everybody, but Godzilla 98 is going in the high C tier actually, while Godzilla 2000 is going in low C tier. I know, I'm shocked too. I actually had more fun watching Godzilla 1998 than I did 2000. What is going on? With a childlike wonder in me slowly dying watching Godzilla 2000 in theaters, surely the Millennium Era can jumpstart my attention again with Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, right? Right? Really? Godzilla vs. Megaguirus and the G Annihilation Strategy, that's actually the full title of the film. I don't know why I memorized it, but here we are. Really? This is an F tier movie, but it's saved by the phenomenal soundtrack that was created by Michiru Oshima, with some of the best music in the Godzilla franchise. Her work in this movie, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and Tokyo SOS even rivals work from Ifukube and Masaru Sato. It's that good. Although the music is some of the best of the franchise, the rest is dreadful. Although I will say the main character, named Kiriko Sugimori, played by Misato Tanaka, who wants revenge on Godzilla for killing her squad and commander during a 1996 invasion of Osaka. She's the only good character in this film, and it's ironic how the same premise would be used again in another Millennium Era movie. But hey, if it ain't broke, why fix it? This is the start of the Millennium Godzilla movies only recognizing 1954 in their timeline, as this would be the norm for the entire era. A bit odd, as the Heisei era felt like a continuous series that each connected, but the fact that every movie does this in this era just feels pretty redundant to me. The Meganulon are back. Remember Rodan? Can we watch that movie instead? Can we watch a good kaiju movie instead? But the only reason why they're here is because the GDF created a black hole, yes, a black hole, that created a wormhole that brought the Meganulon back from the 50s. I mean the prehistoric age. Still, I'm not a fan of the Meganulon, but at least you can see them transforming and even start attacking Godzilla for his G-cells, which they use to create their queen named Megaguirus. And that's basically it, honestly. The frog splash from the top rope during the final fight was hilarious. It was just an homage to the goofy moments from the Showa era, but if you gain nothing from this movie, I would at least recommend looking up the music and the final fight for this movie. Everything else can basically just be skipped. Alright, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah starring Baragon. Giant monsters all out attack. Yep. This one is my favorite Godzilla movie of all time, and my third best Godzilla movie of all time. Yes, it was second, but I moved to third. Godzilla Minus One, obviously, if you're gonna watch this right now, Godzilla Minus One takes the other S plus tier, because there's only 3 S plus tier movies that I can think of when it comes to Godzilla. And GMK is one of them. My personal favorite Godzilla movie ever made, this one's going alongside the original and S plus tier. GMK is truly a spectacle that should be seen to be believed. Directed by Shusuke Kaneko, known for directing the entire Heisei Gamera trilogy, and when I tell you, when I finally watched the Gamera trilogy, I loved every second of it, and I finally understood why some people even consider them greater than the Heisei Godzilla movies. I get it. You know what? Watching the movies now, I finally understood why some people made that argument. And I can see that argument actually being a really good case. The effects done by Makoto Kamiya are some of the best of the Millennium era, and the suit designs for Godzilla, Mothra, Ghidorah, and Baragon are all unique and stand out from each other from their respective designs. And wait a second, did I say Baragon? Yep, returning from his cameo in Destroy All Monsters, Baragon returns nearly 40 years later in this movie. And GMK's premise takes the established Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah approach and changes it, as this time it's King Ghidorah protecting Japan from Godzilla's wrath. Baragon, Mothra, and King Ghidorah were once ancient guardians, sworn to protect Japan from a major cataclysmic event, and there's no bigger cataclysmic event than a returning Godzilla, born from the souls killed by Japan during World War II. This Godzilla is a definition of revenge, killing everyone in his path, feeling no remorse whatsoever. I mean, this was a crazy story during the time, and it's insane to me to think that a Godzilla movie would take the premise of Japan choosing to forget and ignore the atrocities they committed during World War II. That is such a crazy premise, and the fact that this movie has it really makes it stand out from the rest of the Godzilla movies. It is that good. Not only is the story enthralling and the special effects superb, but the real highlight of this movie is the soundtrack created by Kao Otani. Each theme for Godzilla, Baragon, Mothra, and Ghidorah stand out, and especially the main theme. I can see why the Heisei Gamera trilogy and Shadow of the Colossus had such amazing soundtracks. Did I forget to mention that? Yeah, researching for this movie, I couldn't believe it at first, but it just goes to show just how phenomenal Otani is as a composer. As fans, we are truly blessed to have some amazing composers create iconic tracks for the Godzilla franchise. But it really goes to show just the importance of music in the franchise, as it go hand in hand with the effects and even Godzilla himself. I don't want to spoil too much about this movie, but if you can, I would highly recommend checking this movie out. A fan favorite for a reason, GMK takes a spin on some original Godzilla tropes and propels them into an excellent movie. Also watch the Gamera trilogy and Gamera the Brave. I really enjoyed Gamera the Brave. I get it, it's kind of cutesy, but how can you call cutesy about the main villain? It eats people. That movie is also great, and it's a worthy sequel to the Gamera trilogy. With GMK starring Baragon showing that returning iconic monsters can bring fans back to the theaters, the next movie in the Millennium era would bring back one of Godzilla's greatest adversaries in Mechagodzilla. And unlike in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, where the military used the desecrated corpse of Mecha King Ghidorah, this time the military instead are going to use a desecrated corpse of the original Godzilla to build around the new Mechagodzilla called Kiryu. Kiryu is such a great design, and again, it's just so hard for me to judge each Mechagodzilla design, as I love them all basically, except for Mechagodzilla City. But we don't talk about that. What Netflix movies? Those movies are just a myth. There is no such thing as a Netflix Godzilla trilogy. What are you talking about? Oh, ignore these. Anyway, like I said in the Mechagearus review, Oshima returns to create the music for this movie, and I'm gonna say that the opening music for the opening shot of Godzilla rising from the sea during a thunderstorm is probably my favorite out of the Millennium era. It's hard for me to use different synonyms for fantastic, but the music for this movie I still listen to this day. I mainly listen to all their tracks, to be honest, when I'm just editing videos or just relaxing. They're that good. The story for Godzilla against Mechagodzilla revolves around a disgraced GDF soldier named Akine Yashido, played by Yumiko Shako, who wants to take revenge on Godzilla for killing her squad mates and commander during an attack in 1999. Wait, that feels familiar. Didn't we already do this? Well, I enjoyed Yumiko's performance in this film, as she is the star of the movie alongside the monsters, as her quest for revenge takes a turn when attempting to work with Mechagodzilla to defeat Godzilla. Again, another Millennium movie that focuses solely on the 1954 movie, but also it refers to the original Mothra movie and even mentions the War of the Gargantuas when talking about the creation of the Maser cannons. I thought that was a really nice callback to other Toho movies that weren't just about Godzilla. Kiryu's ultimate attack is probably the most powerful move for any of the Mechagodzilla variants, as he shoots an absolute zero cannon out of his chest and can freeze almost everything. It can even shoot through multiple buildings. That's how powerful this move is. I would consider this another Godzilla defeat. Although both kaiju are heavily damaged, I mean, Godzilla really gets messed up by the end of this film. It's crazy how he's able to even walk back into the sea being like, okay, I might be done after this battle. It's insane just how much damage is shown in this movie. They even had Angels legend Hideki Matsui have a brief cameo in this movie before he signed with the New York Yankees in 2003. I almost didn't even notice it at first, and his nickname is Godzilla. So if that was my nickname and I got to star in a Godzilla movie, even for a brief cameo, I'd have bragging rights for life. Godzilla Gets Mechagodzilla has a perfect blend of old and new, as this movie is going all the way into S tier. I would highly recommend watching it, and all the Mechagodzilla movies are great. Every single one. Although not on the same level as its predecessor, Godzilla Tokyo SOS probably has the best Mothra design in the entirety of its franchise. This design is fantastic. Watching the behind the scenes for this movie, it's crazy how they're able to make it work so fluently. If you didn't like the Heisei variants for Mothra and felt they're a little bit stiff, Tokyo SOS will surely satisfy you in that regard. The story this time revolves around Godzilla's bones, as the Shobijin return and they come to warn the Japanese government that Godzilla's bones must be returned to the sea and not be used to defend Japan. A new Kira pilot is used for this movie as Akane went on vacation or something. It's a shame she wasn't in the finale of the story, as the emotional finale with Kiryu doesn't hit quite the same without her. Obviously, the government refuses the Shobin's request, as Godzilla returns from the sea, still bearing the scars he received from the first movie. So now it's up to Mothra and her larva to set things right, all while Kiryu and Godzilla begin their fight to the death. There really isn't much to say about this movie, as although the story isn't on par with Godzilla Gets Mechagodzilla, the music and fights are still top notch, and if you want to see the conclusion of Kiryu's story, and I would highly recommend renting it on YouTube if you have the chance, I'm putting Tokyo SOS into B tier, a satisfying conclusion to the Kiryu story. Now let's get on to the Millennium's finale. Godzilla Final Wars is just insane. I love how chaotic it is for basically the entire movie. Having metahumans have the blood of Gigan in them, Godzilla being an absolute juggernaut, the Zillions making an appearance to conquer the Earth on their Epcot ball. I mean, seriously, as a kid growing up, I would always say that was the Epcot ball. I don't know why that was stuck in my head. I never went to Walt Disney World as a kid. I only went to the one in Anaheim, but yeah, just look at the Epcot ball. I mean, look at it. It's a giant golf ball. For the real finale of the Godzilla franchise, Toho decided to pull no punches, and instead of having 11 kaiju like in Deshara Monsters, they instead had 12 kaiju for Godzilla Final Wars, because Toho liked to go one step beyond. Old favorites are back in this movie, like Anguirus, Gigan, Rodan, King Caesar, Kumonga, okay, Kabakuris, fine, Ibra, whatever, Hedorah, for like 2 seconds. And even Minya. Wait, even Minya returns? Oh my goodness. The amount of references in this movie is just too many to count, as the movie feels like one big love letter to the franchise, and Godzilla is just a menace in this film, beating up anyone who stands in his way. The final fight between Godzilla and Kaiser Ghidorah was really enjoyable, although I do prefer the first version of Monster X over Kaiser Ghidorah. Seeing Godzilla being able to go back to the sea and into the sunset reminded me of Terra Mechagodzilla's ending, as Godzilla had won the battle and deserves some good old relaxation. Godzilla Final Wars is filled to the brim with action for both the monsters and even the humans, as both are struggling to defeat the Zillions and the controlled monsters. This feels like the finale to the franchise. It's still a shame that the movie itself is okay, and it's going into C tier. Probably above, probably C plus, probably going in the highest realm of C tier, but just below Tokyo SOS. I'm sorry, but if I had to put the Deshara Monsters into C tier with fantastic visuals but boring characters, I'm putting Final Wars into C tier with great visuals but no characters. I mean, writing this script, I can't tell you one thing about these characters, and I'm writing this as I'm watching the damn movie, so it really goes to show just how little impact the characters had in the story. Although Godzilla is great in this film, everything else just feels like one big trip. And that is it. Every single Millennium Era Godzilla movie ranked. We are officially done with the Showa, Heisei, and Millennium Eras. Now it's time to head towards 2014 and then in 2016 with the Reiwa era. See you guys then.